Today, we'll be making an oversized wedge cushion.
Welcome back to Sailrite Workbench. This is a great cushion shape to have if you want to relax but keep yourself slightly propped up. The sturdiness of the foam keeps your back supported, and the bolster pillow is an optional feature that you can clip onto the cushion when desired. The pockets are great for storing phones, books, toys, or whatever you can fit. It can even go outside because we use Outdura and Cushionrite antimicrobial foam. You can flip the whole thing over for different purposes such as back support for napping or as a leg rest. Our finished project dimensions will be 20 inches high by 20 inches wide and 12 inches deep. The front slope will be 25 inches high by 20 inches wide. To make this project, you will need 2 yards of Outdura canvas olive upholstery fabric, 24 by 80 inch Cushionrite standard antimicrobial foam. We chose to use firm. Here are all the materials we will be using to make this project. These will be provided in the description below. And here are all the tools we'll be using on this project. We'll be sewing on the Sailrite Ultrafeed LS. To make this project easier, we'll also be using a vacuum with a detachable hose. We've linked all the tools and materials in the description below. For the wedge, here are the measurements for the fabric panels. Feel free to pause here and cut out your fabric. We are going to use a bolster pillow form that is 20 inches wide and 6 inches high. And here are the measurements for the bolster pillow. Feel free to pause here and cut out your fabric. To get our circles, we will use a canvas patterning ruler and choose the hole that is marked 3 inches. Place a fabric marker in the hole and hold the tool down with an awl or other pointing object to prevent any shifting as you make your circle. For the actual wedge shape, we are using foam. To make these pieces easier to cut out, I first cut the panel in half. We will take the 24 by 80 panel and cut out 2 panels that are 20 by 20 and 2 panels that are 20 by 12. We wanted a firm back support cushion, so we chose Cushionrite standard foam firm, but you can use Cushionrite soft or medium if you would like a softer foam. And just for our Workbench viewers, we're giving you an exclusive offer. Use the promo code FREESPRAY to get 1 free Cushionrite spray adhesive for every $100 spent at the Sailrite website. Don't miss out on this exclusive discount. And now back to the project. Align and stack the 4 pieces of foam, measure from one corner to the opposite side's corner, and mark using a straight edge. Do this on both sides of the stack. Unstack and connect your lines on each of the panel's front and back side again, using a straight edge for a better cutting reference. Take them apart and cut them individually with the Sailrite blade foam saw. Stack them after cutting to be sure that they fit together to make a giant triangle. We will now begin the gluing process. This will be messy, so make sure you prep correctly as far as your work area and your clothes. We recommend working in a well-ventilated area or wearing a protective face mask while using the spray adhesive and cutting and shaping the foam. Unstack them and start with the largest and the second to largest pieces. Use Cushionrite to spray both sides of the foam panels before securing them together. Make sure you are following the directions located on the back of the can and lining up the foam panels to the best of your abilities. Repeat the process until all 4 layers are secure and stacked. Once the adhesive has fully cured, you can do any refining or smoothing out with the foam shaper. To shape correctly, remove any big or super noticeable imperfections. Any small ones will be hidden with the batting later. After your foam piece is shaped how you would like it, it's time to work on the fabric. Let's start with the pocket panels. Start by pressing a 1/2 inch seam with an iron along the sides on both pocket panels. Next, we will place our basting tape, starting along the sides and ending on the chosen top and bottom of both pockets. Top stitch each of your chosen top sides of your pockets. After top stitching, it's time to pin the pockets to the triangular sides. Place 1 pocket panel right side up and centered onto the right side of one of the side panels near the lower section. The top stitch side should be facing toward the 26-inch top. And the bottom of the pocket panel will run 1 inch parallel with the 13-inch bottom side of the triangular panel. Pin down the 3 pressed sides of the pocket panel. Repeat this step on the other side with the other pocket panel. Once both sides are pinned, take it over to the sewing machine and sew along the 3 pin sides with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Again, repeat with the other side. Match each side panel's 21-inch side with the back panel's 21-inch sides, keeping right sides together. As you can see, I accidentally cut these side panels too long. Don't worry, I'll trim them later. Pin 1/2 inch in and sew with a 1/2 inch seam allowance for both sides. The next step is to pin the sides of the front panel to each of the side panels by matching up the 26-inch sides with the right sides together using a 1/2 inch seam. On the seam of the front panel and the side, we will mark the placement of our D-rings. Measure 7 inches up from the bottom and mark. Next, measure 7 more inches up from the first mark and make another mark. Do this step again so you have 3 marks all 7 inches apart, starting from the bottom and going to the top along the seam. When clipping them on, be sure to place them as close to the seam as possible and facing them inward, so when we are finished sewing, they will be in the correct orientation. Remove any previously placed pins to insert the D-rings if needed. Repeat these steps on the opposite side of the front panel. The total amount of D-rings will be 6. Before we sew, swap out the regular presser foot for the right side zipper foot. Then sew each side panel with a 1/2 inch seam allowance and backstitch over the D-rings. After the D-rings are sewn on, swap the right zipper foot back with the regular presser foot. Continue matching up the bottom panel with the front panel with the right sides together and give ourselves a 1/2 inch seam. Next is to pin the side panels to the bottom panel. Make sure that we are pinning the 13-inch sides together. Then sew along our 1/2 inch seam. Then we are going to clip all the corners, but not our seams, to allow the fabric to relax. Next, flip the cover right side out. Make sure all the corners are out. You may need to use a small tool to help poke out the corners. There should be an opening between the bottom of the back panel and the bottom panel. This is where we will insert our foam. For now, we can put our fabric to the side while we wrap our foam. So now is the time to make our wedge a bit comfier and hide any of those tiny blemishes by wrapping a sheet of soft batting around the form. Wrap the bang around it to get an idea of how much you need and then cut to size and remove. Spray the Cushionrite adhesive onto the foam. Let it get tacky and then lay the batting on top of the glued area and press it down gently so it stays in place. Continue this until the foam is covered in batting. Make sure to fold and cut as needed to prevent any unnecessary lumps. After the batting is glued into place, we are going to wrap our foam form completely in silk film. The trick to wrapping with this material is to make sure the whole thing is covered or it won't do any good for our next step. Place the vacuum hose onto the foam and suck all of the air out of the foam so that it shrinks down enough to fit into the opening of our fabric cover. Place the hose against the foam surface and suck as much air out as possible. If it's not shrinking, then you have an opening in your wraps somewhere. Once you get it shrunk down, quickly turn off the vacuum and transfer the foam into the cover. It does help if someone else is there to assist. The foam might fill back up with air pretty quickly. You have been warned. If you don't get it in the cover on the first try, you can always re-shrink it and try again. Scoot and shift the foam or cover to make sure that it is positioned correctly. If you're happy with the fit, then we are going to ladder stitch the last two panels together. Feel free to modify this step with a hook and loop or a zipper closure instead. The wedge is finished. So now it's time for the bolster pillow. The first step of the pillow will be making the clip straps. With the wrong side up and working with the 2-inch side, fold in each side 1/2 inch and press. Then fold in half once more so it closes upon itself. And repeat on the other side. You should end up with a 1/2 inch by 3-inch strap. Insert each strap into a clip and set to the side. With the right sides together, fold the main panel in half to line up the 20.5 inch sides. We will only pin 5 inches from each end with 1/2 inch seam to leave a gap in the middle. This gap will be used to insert our pillow form later. After the ends have been pinned, sew each of the 5-inch pin sections with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Top stitch along both clip straps. Stitch along both 3-inch sides on each of them. Place the clip straps along the seam you just sewed with clips inward and 1/2 inch of the straps on the main panel. Be sure that both clips are facing upward or downward before you clip or pin them into place. We will now pin the circular side panels onto the main panel sides that we just sewed. Start one at a time with the wrong sides out. Line the circle up and pin with a 1/4 inch seam allowance starting at the seam on the main panel. Starting at the seam with the straps, don't forget to backstitch over the clip straps. Carefully sew all the way around the circles with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Take your time when sewing the 1/4 inch seam allowance on each side panels because they can be difficult. You don't want too much fabric to gather. Snip from the outside to the inside of the fabric, but not past the stitches. Make your cuts 1 to 2 inches apart. This will allow the fabric to shift. It's also a good idea to snip any excess fabric from your straps to reduce the bulk. Once you have the side panels sewn, reach in and pull the case right side out. Work your pillow form into the case and shift around as needed. Lastly, we will ladder stitch the unsewn section of our main panel on our case. Congrats! And there you have your wedge cushion. Lean it against the wall, throw it on the ground, toss it under a tree. The options are endless. Read a book, take a nap, let the kids have at it, or just chill. We've linked all the tools and materials we used in this video in the description below. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Hope you join us next time.